Okay, good win Saturday. First conference game. Did a lot of good things in the game. Did a great job on third down offensively, 9 of 12, 5 of 5 touchdowns in the red area. I think for the year we're 6-0 in the turnover ratio. Taken it away 6 times, have not turned the ball over. Responded to their field goals or scores with scores. Had a 90-yard drive, an 87-yard drive, 2 75s. Defense held them to under 250 yards total offense and 2 of 8 on third down. So there weren't any real splash plays on special teams in this game. So, good solid performance. All eyes on Charlotte, team that's proven capable of playing up at a very competitive level. Last year they played Maryland, led at halftime, one-score game in the fourth quarter. Florida was a ball game throughout the entire game. And Carolina this year is a one-score game in the third quarter. So they have a lot of transfers. They have a lot of athletes. Their defensive line is big, and they can move. They got a receiver that can really go. So, there's a standard we do everything to, and we want to keep improving as a team. And we've got to have a great week of preparation. It starts with the staff, and stay humble and hungry as we prepare for this next opponent.
Zach, on your left, and Jack.
I know you talked about it some Saturday night, but as you evaluate after the fact, Curtis's performance, 9 of 9 on third downs, his role in some of those long drives you talked about, keeping things on schedule, making the right decisions, just what really stands out in maybe a film review of his performance from Saturday?
Yeah, I thought he played really well and did a really nice job with his eyes and was accurate. We did a great job protecting. We had no sacks. And, receivers did a nice job of separating and made some really good catches, too. So I thought he played extremely well.
Jack, on your left, and Pete.
Yeah, Curt, I know Charlotte has had some quarterback injuries, and there may be some uncertainty with that position. I guess, how does that affect the way that you prepare with them, and do you see major differences with their quarterbacks, whoever it may be?
Yeah. Well, they've played 3 guys. They played 2 guys in the last game. Brought a guy in the fourth quarter, a little older guy. The backup was a younger guy. So, we'll prepare for both schematically, more so in terms of what they do, what they like to do. They have a receiver that can really go, that number 3, and a tight end, 18's a good player. So, maybe the younger guy has a little bit of a liver arm, and his mobility might be a little more, but the older guy has got the experience, kind of the moxie, understands how to play. So it won't affect our game plan a whole lot. Yeah.
Pete, on your left row, too, and then Ken.
A receiver with Elijah, what was it you saw about him that made you want to bring him to obviously to James Madison, and then how much has he improved since then? What attributes did he have that maybe others didn't see?
Well, we needed receivers that year in the portal, and as a freshman at St. Francis University, it's an FCS school. He was all conference, had about 50 catches for about 1,000 yards, give or take. And, he had a skill set. And, but like I said, he got injured in the spring, didn't do a whole lot. And the first game, he was third team. But by, against Virginia, the second game, we won that game, made some key plays, and he was starting by the third or fourth game. And he's just very competitive guy, a guy you can really trust, and really good at contested catches, smart. I mean, he loves ball. And I think you see a trust factor really developing with Curtis and him and Cross, who Curtis has played with at Ohio U, and the other guys that are in there.
Ken in the back, and Zach.
Besides obviously what he could do physically, how important has it been to have Curtis just be a guy who's a veteran guy, played a lot of football and seen a lot of things prior to coming here, just to help him gain the trust of guys, learn your system, and go forward with it with some manner of consistency? How important has that been for this ball club?
Well, to me, that's the key, the drill. And, we've had great success the last 3 years with the one-year transfers. We took Todd Centeio, who developed and was player of the year in the league. on offense, and then we got Jordan McLeod. And they were both older guys that had played, and Curtis obviously had a track record before he came. So it's not like you're teaching a young guy how to play the position. You got older guys that know how to play the position, and now you're just fitting them into your offensive structure and then build upon the things that they do well. And so, you know, that position, there's just so many things that go on. To have an older guy, you can't put a value on it.
Zach be in front and Daniel.
To be able to go on the road in conference and get a big win like that, you mentioned a couple of plays to be able to respond to what UCLA did in that second half as well. What do those types of things say about the maturity of this team?
Well, we do have a lot of guys on this team that have played a lot of football across the board. We do have a couple new guys on the offensive line, but at all the other positions, we have a veteran outfit. We're veteran on the defensive line and at linebacker. And, you know, Farrell's still kind of a younger guy. But we've got, other than that, we've got experience on defense as well. So, you know, I thought we responded really well. We started very fast. Now, obviously, they fumbled the first play after we had 7-0 lead. We're up 14-0 before you blink an eye. But in the second half, you know, we had some adversity, obviously, with the penalties on defense. And, you know, there was no panic or frustration. You know, maybe there was frustration in terms of what was going down. But our guys kept their poise and responded. And so, you know, I thought that was great.
Daniel in front and Owen.
You mentioned Amari. It feels like you guys have him kind of playing a lot of roles as far as heavy nickel, but I want to say he's had some early success as a kind of that like late rush role as well. I think I've seen him at safety at times as well. How important, how valuable is it to have a nickel who can play as many roles as he can, and then what is it within his skill set that kind of allows him?
Right, that's an important position, the rover, we call that, because you've got to be good against the run and the pass. And then, you know, against 12 personnel, we have a package where we put an extra linebacker in, and we put him at strong safety for Cignetti. And I thought he had a good game Saturday. You see him building weekly on his successes and playing with more confidence. You know, I just wish when he intercepts the pass, he wouldn't run toward the end zone and, you know, celebrate with your teammates on the sideline, right? Championship programs don't do that.
Owen on your right, Zach Osterman.
Yeah, Curt, 0 sacks allowed, as you mentioned, and, you know, a lot of credit goes to the offensive line, but also the running backs blocking was definitely a key part. Has that always been a staple in Shanahan's offense, and how important is that for those pass protection plays?
Well, I mean, it's critical if you're going to drop back and throw the ball, and that's six-man protection primarily. You know, the running back's got to be a good receiver out of the backfield, but he's also got to be able to block the blitz. And I thought our guys did a great job Saturday. We were late on 1 or 2, but all in all, you know, it was really good. And you can't throw the ball if your backs can't protect.
Zach and then Ken.
I want to ask about Aiden and Jalen. They obviously play a lot of snaps for you. They don't rotate a ton. I know Aiden's got the headset in. But how important is maybe their chemistry, their relationship, the football? They've already played together in this defense even before coming to Indiana, having 2 linebackers in there that can communicate, that recognize things, and maybe understand a little bit of that relationship.
Well, it's kind of like playing with a veteran quarterback on offense. You know, both those guys know the defense. Now, there's new things that go in every week, and the defense morphs year in, year out. But they have a lot of snaps in the defense, so they understand it. And, you know, Aiden wears the green dot on defense. And and they're used to playing with each other. But regardless whether they're used to playing with each other or not, they have specific jobs to do every single play depending on formation and what happens after the ball's snapped. But there is definitely a familiarity with each other, yeah.
Ken and then we'll wrap with Daniel.
Ignoring the calls from Saturday, I was wondering if you would like to see the targeting rules kind of adjusted a little bit to create levels of punishment when it comes to those kind of plays, balancing safety and fairness, I guess.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a balance there and some common sense and, intent also. One of the probably the most hardest hits in the game was when Aiden Fisher intercepted the pass, and got hit in the head, and there's no call for that one. And, the other ones were kind of Mickey Mouse. That's the way it went down Saturday, and we're not going to change the way we play. And, I don't think there was anything dirty out there, that's for sure.
Daniel, last one.
I want to say Mikhail had like 7 pressures or some wild number like that. You mentioned, I think it was like late August, that you've seen him evolve so much from 2020. Where have you seen him evolve, I guess? Most?
Well, I noticed that in spring ball. I think the biggest thing with him is he's been healthy. Because early in his career he had a couple injuries. He started as a true freshman with 2 bad shoulders that were both surgically repaired, so he missed the next season. And now that he's been on the field, he's just gotten better every year. And I saw him turn it up another level in spring ball, which is that's sort of the natural progression you want to see in all the guys, is that they build off the previous year. So he's a good athlete, he's smart, he's crafty, and he plays really hard.
Characteristics you see when you watch his 2-month film or watch him through the years? I've only gotten to know Coach during my time in the Big Ten, at the Big Ten meetings, at the Fiesta Bowl Summit, where a lot of coaches go down to. He's a leader amongst the Big Ten coaches. He's on the AFCA committee and some other different things, so he's always very, very involved with all the issues and all the things that are happening. Does a great job at that. Very personable, really just a really, really good guy. We have a Big Ten coaches group chat to discuss issues. I think he heads up a lot of that. So I think he's, great about those things. I had a chance to meet his wife this year. They're a lovely family. So I have a lot of respect for him. His teams, I think they're going to play great defense. They're going to run the football. They're going to play great special teams. He was obviously, after an illustrious career, as a head coach, was with Coach Belichick. So I know he obviously understands that way of thinking, which is probably a lot like how we think, and doing a great job at Illinois. So I have a lot of respect for him.
Is Micah Mazuka going to be available this week?
No, he won't play this week. He's on the team. He's practicing with us. He's just working through some stuff right now. He's doing everything we asked him to do, but he won't be available.
Not injured?
No.
How'd you feel like Henry filled in? And, what are your thoughts there about your depth at guard?
Yeah, Henry, if you go back to the Colorado game, we put Henry in the fourth quarter, and Henry played the fourth quarter against Colorado. So, Henry's got to be earmarked as a starter coming into the year. And, obviously Mike and Justin did a great job for us the first game and a half. But Henry's healthy now, so ready to go.
You guys got some big plays on them on their defense last year, but you did that in a way that maybe you wouldn't do this year because you used Heinrich a lot. What do you see from their defense, and maybe where are some areas you feel like you guys can have some success?
Well, we hit the deep ball to Marcus, on the first drive. We hit some screens to Billy Kemp that were, led to some big plays. Ran Heinrich, as you said. They've altered a lot of what they're doing, right? They're a different defense than they were. Aaron Henry's their defensive coordinator, who I've known a long, long time. He's doing a great job of putting his imprint on it. They'll show man and play cover 2. They'll show man and play zone. So they're playing some 4 down as well as the bear that they've been in. So it's not like playing them last year where you're coming in, it's all going to be bear man to man. Hey, we got to win versus man. You got to be ready for man zone with a young quarterback. He's got to recognize, because they don't show it to you. He's got to recognize the zone on the snap, and they're taking the ball away at a really high level. And some of those, besides their guys just making great plays. I mean, they got some great players on defense. Some of it, though, is also them doing a great job disguising, and the guy throwing a man beater into his zone coverage and then picking it off. So we have a lot to get done there. And then, to your point, we're a different team, though, than we were last year. Last year, we keep track of yards after contact. Last year, we only had 71 yards after contact in this game, which is about as poor as you could ever be. But we had a lot of explosive plays that kind of made up for it. And then we had a bad fourth quarter. We started turning the ball over. So you can't turn the ball over versus them. I think they're +8 on the year right now. They've got 9 takeaways. They're protecting the ball.
How would you sum up the O-line so far? I think they've only allowed 1 sack, but just overall, what's your sort of view 3 games in?
We don't know anything about really those guys until we play in the Big Ten. You know, I mean, they've done a really good job versus who we've played against. There's always the areas that we're always trying to work at, you know. But this will be such a different challenge facing these guys. You know, the pass. You know, they have huge guys inside. They have excellent pass rushers on the outside. 9, 17, 3. Now they're playing 17 and 3 together. This is, you know, they create 5 1-on-1s, so everyone's got to win. If one guy loses, you struggle. So, but yeah, I've been pleased with our offensive line. I think they've done a really nice job. I mean, I think anytime you don't punt in a game, you probably feel pretty good. So I felt pretty good about what we did on Saturday offensively, but that was all preseason to me. Now the season starts. You know, it's the first game for us in the Big Ten, and we'll find out where we are.
Hey, Coach, this is a 400th consecutive sellout. Have you given some thought on just the historical meaning of what this night will mean for Nebraska having the 400th sellout here?
You know, to be quite honest, I haven't. I certainly understand the gravity of it. You know, I think the one thing that's really easy for me and great for me to explain to recruits, you know, the first thing we do when recruits show up here on their official visit is we don't go do some fancy thing. We take a picture with them, and then we walk them right out into the field, and we show them, like, you know, hey, here's the number of sellouts in a row, and here's the All-Americans. And then we talk about the field and how our hope someday is that they win a championship on that field, but also that they graduate on that field. And how the University of Nebraska is not a football factory. It's a place of development, and that's a proof of it, that you can, you know, you can sell out for 400 straight games, and you can lead the country in academic All-Americans. Now, they've changed some of the parameters, and they're giving some away to other people, but we've been the leader in that for a long time. So it's just a perfect blend of everything, right? And it's what drew me here. It's what draws other people here. So I think getting to 400 will be great. My job, though, is to make sure that we win that game so that people leave happy about it, not anything else. So I'm just trying to stick to football.
Do you expect Jamari Butler to be available?
I do, yeah. Jamari could have played Friday night. I think that was more of a got Cam in there. We liked the way Cam was playing. Got Kai in there and just thought, you know what, we were in control of the game. Let's push him to this week and get him a little bit healthier for this Friday night game. You know, you play on a short week. We probably put some of the 2s in earlier than I normally would in that game, which was actually really beneficial. They got a chance to play, like, even on that 4th down, you know, fighting to keep them out of the end zone. I think that was really good for us. So Jamari should be way more healthier this week.
You talked about preseason, you know, preseason being over. Given your experience in the NFL too, you approach it the same way, obviously, game week. But could you talk about the heightened stakes now that it's league play?
Yeah. So I mean, you think about it very simply. Our goal is to go 1-0 every week. Now that we're over with it, though, when you look back on it in hindsight, like you went 1-0 in non-conference play, which is what we're supposed to do. Good teams do what they're supposed to do. But now we start the Big Ten, and we're trying to compete to win the Big Ten. That's why we're in it, right? So, you know, all of these games matter. All these games are important, and so this is a great opportunity. It's our first league game, and so yeah, we didn't certainly approach the preseason like the preseason. But to me, it's just, hey, now we're entering Big Ten play, so our approach doesn't change, but just the gravity of the situation was a little bit different.
How do you feel like you guys have played in terms of your physicality, not only in the games but in practice? Like, as you go into Big Ten's a physical league, how do you feel like you guys are doing physically?
I think we're doing fine physically. I mean, I think defensively, I think if you asked everyone on defense, they didn't like the tackling the other night. You know, our yards after contact, which has been in the 80s, the first 2 games was 180. So it was 100 yards more than it had been. So I think that was something that, you know, really kind of bothered us. Even at halftime, I was very calm and stoic at halftime. I was like, hey, you're going to win the game. What's bothering you guys right now, which is a really great thing. I'm so happy that it bothers us. Like, we're not just happy to win. Now we're starting to play to a standard and understand, like, when we're not playing to a standard, it really bothers us. So, you know, giving up a long drive and giving up 3 points in the first drive really bothered them. And that means that our guys are maturing, and they're not just playing, you know, they're not just playing to, you know, for the result. They're playing for the way that they play. So, you know, so physically, I mean, that was a game we went out and we decided we were going to throw it more than run it early on, and then hope to run it more in the second half and have a lead. As I told our team, we needed the defense to play better to run the ball more. We needed more than 45 plays. Kind of, I think you asked that the other night, right, or whatever it was. So, but I think we're a pretty physical team. We'll find out this Friday night. This is a really physical team. You look at their stats; they're about like us in every category. So we're playing a mirror image of ourselves.
You've had 3 games that have been in hand at halftime. Is it more important in practice during the week to create some of the situational stuff? And how do you mix that in during the season? I know, scrimmages in August you can do that. How do you do that in a week like this?
It's really hard. I mean, we really have to focus on Thursdays on like, hey, here's our 2-minute. We have a lot of different situations that we call. We have rally, 2-minute, 4-minute last shot. Like we have all these things that maybe don't make sense to other people, but make sense to our guys. So we have to do them a little bit more. At the end of the half, we were moving in 2-minute, and we moved from last shot into what we call attack because we got the first down, and 4th and 3, the analytics say to go for that, right? In a game like that, maybe you kick that field goal because you can go up 24-3. But to me, we have to convert crucial plays if we want to be a great team. Great teams make great plays, and so that was a great opportunity to give that play to Dylan, give that play to the fellas, and say, all right, now go execute. And we didn't execute that one, right? And so sometimes when you don't execute, you learn more than when you do execute. So I think everything we do is very intentional. And again, we were pretty certain we were going to win the game, and pretty certain that we were in control of the game. I would never do anything to hurt that, but when it's borderline there, I think creating those scenarios are important. So yeah, I think that those are good things. And then the other thing that we're now realizing, okay, is, and this Friday night, obviously it's a ranked team, so it'll be maybe different, but we're no longer like the hunter. Like we're no longer like the unranked team that people are like, who do we have this? Oh, we're playing Nebraska. Oh, okay, we beat them the last 4 years. Now you're the team that people are preparing for. The UNI players who I had a lot of respect for. I mean, I thought that quarterback was a dude. I liked him too. Was a dude. After the game, they talked about, hey, we talked about this game all summer long, and our guys have to understand that, like, when then you start putting numbers in front of your name, right? People start saying, oh, we want to go beat a ranked team, So it's not quite your question, but I just do think our guys understand you're going to see different things. So all of a sudden we come out against these last week, and they're bringing 0 in the red zone. It's like, okay, well, they got us on one. Now we need to kick a field goal. That could cost us a game at some point, right? So we have to be better in those areas, and so we're having to do a lot more situational stuff. To your point, Mitch. Because we haven't been in, haven't had to go down there at the end.
Ty Wallen has gotten on the field quite a bit these last 3 weeks. What have you seen from him to earn that playing time so far?
Yeah, Kai's the guy that could have played for us last year. We redshirted him because we're trying to build a championship caliber roster, and so sometimes we do things that are difficult to do in the moment but pay off in the long run. And Kai and James were 2 of those decisions last year that we redshirted last year. And I appreciate the confidence like Kai and his family had in us to do that because he was playing pretty well when we sat him. But now he's out there. He's a redshirt sophomore. He's 260 pounds, and he's playing better than he would have played if he played last year. So he's rugged. He's physical. He can play. He can go inside and play a 3 technique. He can play outside as a 5. He's getting good pass rush. So he's a guy that you can put in there and mix in with the 2s, mix in with the 1s, and know that the level of play is not going to drop off.
Riley then Popple a 4-game guy, or is he going to play the whole season?
Yeah, Riley will be a 4-game guy.
How do you communicate that to somebody when they played again most of all last year?
Hey, you can play 8 plays to 10 plays a game this year, or you can be Ty Robinson and those guys when they leave. And so that's a decision they make. Again, it's a credit to Riley. It's a credit to his family. And Riley was joking with me yesterday. He was like, hey, when they went down the field on that first drive, I was waiting for you to say, forget it, get in there. But I just think it's trust, right? In an era where I go to a lot of meetings and hear a lot of coaches say, like, these kids are going to transfer anyway, play them. Just because the system's changed doesn't mean a coach should change. Coaches are here. We're here to do what's right for the players. And so, Riley can certainly help us. We have other guys we think can help us, and we think Sua's going to come back and be healthy here soon. And, we're going to, if we can, and we have 2 more games with Riley. So, but I think Riley's going to be a great, great, great player here. And I think this year, because he stepped in for us last year, this year of development, he's on the scout team now. Just think of how much better our scout team is when we're out there today and we're having to block him. And then we got Brody Tagaloa back. I should make sure. And so happy for Brody, for him to get on the field this past Saturday was such a monumental thing. I've watched him. I've watched him in the weight room in the mornings at 6 a.m. for the last 2 years. And I think back to when he got hurt. His dad and mom coming in, and his dad saying to him, sometimes in life you have to embrace the delay. And I wrote that down. I said, what a beautiful thing. And Brody's just grown in the interim. So we have some guys back now, Sam, that allow us maybe with Riley.
Coach, you mentioned Ty Robinson. You know, he could have left 1, maybe even 2 years ago, but what does that say that he had trust in you to come back for this year?
Yeah, I mean, I told him to leave, so he didn't trust me too much. I said, you should go get some money, you know. I just think the world of him. Honestly, I just think the absolute world of him. Guys like Ty Robinson are why guys like me coach, you know, just that daily interaction, the daily relationship. And the great thing about Ty is he lets me be me. You know, I'm sarcastic and snarky out there on the field. I'm taking shots and da-da-da. And, like, guys like Bear and him, like, I teased Bear the whole week against Colorado that, you know, we weren't going to need him that week because it wasn't a run game. It was going to be a pass rush game. He got a sack, and he's, like, yelling at me from the field. Like, that's why I do this. I don't do it for any other reason. I love watching those guys. And so Ty's bringing that group along, too. You know, Ty's bringing that group along. And what I love is when they leave, their legacy will be here. And Ty talks a lot about the guys who were here before him. So it wasn't like there wasn't great leadership in the D-line room before that. You know, Coach Dawson, all those guys did a great job. Ty talks a lot about that. But Ty, Jamari, Nash, I can't imagine a better group. And next year when it's Cam and Riley and those guys, I don't think we'll skip a beat.
Did you see him take out Potenza?
Yeah. So after we beat Colorado, Jordan sent that out, like just the video of it on, like, we have a whole staff group chat. It's like 100 people, and I put it on my family group chat. And my 9-year-old, my 11-year-old, they thought it was the funniest thing in the world. Julie thought it was the funniest thing in the world. So I saw on Twitter them shaking hands now. So that's you know, we can have fun without being silly, right? So I like that they're having some fun, but no one practices harder than Ty. He comes to practice every day like it's a game, and so it makes it fun to coach.
What did you think of Fleggy on long snapping?
I thought it was great. Yeah, it was great. You know, he was going to do the short snaps. Cam was going to do the deep snaps. Again, we didn't punt, so we didn't need that. But I thought he put the ball in his hand, and you know, our field goal operation is still a work in progress. You know, we made a couple short ones. We're still a work in progress, and for us to be the team we want to be, it's going to have to continue to improve. And so each week's just taking another step. Our protection was better. Our snaps were better. Now, you know, we're going to do what we want to do. You have to hit a 57-yarder to win it, like Alex Henry did whatever years ago, right? Those kind of moments happen, and so building up to that is important for us. It could be this Friday.
Are there some advantages to be home on a short week, just to have that extra time without having to travel, already losing a day?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think especially on a night game, just the fact we can come over here and use the facility and all that stuff is great. That being said, you know, last year we went there, and you know, we were emotionally, physically, and mentally ready. There's 3 levels of ready you have to be. You have to be physically ready, you have to be mentally ready, you have to be emotionally ready. Last week we were physically and mentally ready. I don't know if our defense was emotionally ready. And that's hard to do. That's why teams don't go undefeated very often unless they're way more talented. It's just very hard to win every game. I thought our offense was definitely emotionally ready, right? But last year when we went to this game, we were all 3, all right? And they were a really good team. There's nothing was going to stop us, or so can we? You know, while I'm happy we're at home, it's really about those 3 things. Or are we going to be ready to play on Friday night, or is it going to be about all this other stuff? This is going to be an absolute battle. They're a really, really good team, and it's why in preseason when people start asking about the schedule's easy early, is it? I mean, I'm looking at power rankings now, and we have one of the hardest schedules in the Big Ten moving forward. That coming out last week, right? So all that preseason's fluff everyone talks about is not real. You get to especially now in the transport portal era, you better just get to the season and see who you're playing. And now we're facing a ranked team in week 4, right? And it looks like there's some more ranked. We'll be facing some more ranked teams. The key for us is to play well, so we can be a ranked team. And so this is an excellent team we're facing that's on a mission right now. So we'll have to be ready.
I know you already played some really good receivers in
Colorado, but Illinois' got 2 guys, including one in Pat Bryant that I think you guys saw last year. A, what kind of players are they, and B, how beneficial is it to have somebody playing at the level that Tommy's playing, where teams don't even really target him very much?
Yeah, well, you know, you look at their offense, right? I mean, they're a big power running game with a mobile quarterback. And mobile quarterbacks have bothered us. Okay, mobile quarterbacks have bothered us, but they have 2 explosive receivers on the outside, right? So whether it's Bryant, whether it's Franklin, like they can attack you, and they do a good job of, you know, they try to stress you by putting them both out here. So you either have to play a 1-on-1 to stop the run, or you have to double them and play cover 2 or quarters or something like we did against Colorado, and now they can run the football with a 250-pound back. And their other backs got in there this week, and they all ran the ball well. So very well put together with how they're doing it. Those guys, one thing about them is they've thrown the deep ball. They have more explosive plays than we have. I mean, they're throwing the deep ball, getting one-on-one coverage. not afraid to put it up, and they have great catch radiuses. They can hold off a defender and go up and catch the football. So, luckily with Tommy's 205 pounds. He's not a little corner, right? And I think Buford's been playing really, really, really well. And Buford can play corner. He played the dime versus Colorado. He's very versatile. And then Jeremiah and Amari can play as well. So that'll be one of the main one of the main matchup issues in this game is how well we do versus those two receivers when we choose to play a run front. Can we win the one-on-ones? How well we do with the quarterback containing him. You saw UNI was using the zone read and all that, and they can do that with the quarterback. They can also, the Wisconsin last year, drop back, quarterback draw, which they do. So it's our front stopping the quarterback, and then, again, the power run game. And, if we give up 180 yards after contact, we won't win the game.
He was going to go watch the film on Saturday night instead of doing it Sunday because of the short week. And how have you managed that, accelerating this week with your guys so that they're not missing anything that they need to do?
Yeah, so I take maybe a different approach than a lot of people. I keep like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't move it up a day. A lot of people move it up a day. But we do come in on Sunday. So on Sunday we came in, we cleaned up the practice film, we cleaned up the game film, because there was a lot to learn from that game. So we didn't move ahead. We sat there and did all that. We got our lifts in like we would normally do on Monday, Mitch, and then we walked through Illinois. We got ahead. But today we came out. Today's a Monday for us, and so we'll do Tuesday, we'll do Wednesday. Then like our normal Thursday practice will be a walkthrough, but we also walk through on Friday just like we would have on a Saturday. So we don't overdo it. We don't move it up too far forward. And to your point, I got a text from Dylan Saturday morning. This is what I need to improve upon. Like he's very good about illustrating that for himself, so he can get better. He takes great ownership of his things, and most of our guys I think do a great job. They've watched the tape before we watch it with them. And that's a cultural thing that we have here that guys have had instilled in them.
Anything else for Coach? Get one more up here. Okay. Typical Monday. Quick recap. Kind of taking a deeper dive into the film. Offensively, was pleased didn't turn the ball over. Avoided a couple close ones, but we didn't do that, and so that was improvement. I thought third down again. Aiden operating well on third down to continue some drives. We only having about 8 possessions, scoring on 7 of them, and so like that again, the penalty side didn't help us. Want to keep growing in that area. Defensively, I do think anytime in this day and age in college football you do pitch a shutout, I mean that's impressive, and then let alone you score on that side of the ball. Guys played with some real effort. That showed up on tape. Guys running the ball, doing their jobs, and all of that. So was pleased there. Special teams wise, Eckley got the one opportunity, but that was a big punt. Didn't have great field position the one time we punted, and he boomed it. Coverage was really, really good. Jonathan Kim had another solid game. The field goal in, and he's kicking the ball out of the end zone, and so that was great to see. And so a lot to like, and then plenty to focus on in areas that we got to improve on. Just keep preaching to the guys. What we put on tape will get exposed, whether it's the next week or 3-4 weeks down the road. And that for sure is going to be true this week. A big-time coaching staff, where we're headed to a place that I'm sure is going to be full with some energy and things. It really starts with their quarterback. He can beat you in multiple ways, throwing it, obviously running it, and then their run game that attaches to his skill set is tough to defend. So we got a big time challenge this weekend. On the injury front, Gavin, you probably won't see him the rest of the year, which is unfortunate, again, these yearly ones, because he'd been working really hard. He'd overcome some things, started the last couple games for us, so I kind of feel bad for that, but new opportunities for others to get into the game, and we'll kind of see what that looks like by the end of the week on knowing how we kind of work that right guard position into the rotation. And I guess I'd say the last piece, kind of looking forward to being a part of what I think is a really meaningful tradition of the red bandana game this weekend. I'll never forget going to the 9/11 memorial, and so the opportunity for myself, but really this program to be involved in something that I think is really, really cool and meaningful. Looking forward to that part of Saturday night.
Will Alex get a shot to start on Saturday?
Yeah, Alex will start on Saturday. Excited for him. He's been in here chomping at the bit, so we'll move on from there.
On the left, Isaiah.
What have you been kind of waiting to see from Alex? Since obviously he didn't win the starting job outright, what have you been kind of waiting to see from him to allow him this type of opportunity?
Yeah, just take the reins, perform like he did in the first couple weeks of camp. Like I said, thought he was in a really good place, and Davis outperformed him in camp at the end, and would love to see him just take the reins and do what he's been doing, through those first couple weeks, and I think he will. He's had a great couple weeks of practice. So is Davis, but obviously got to perform in the game, and excited to see what Alex is going to do. And he's been in here setting his tail off the past couple days like he always is, but you can see it ramped up even more.
Back right, Ryan.
Watching Claude Mullins runs, how can you compare him a little bit to Hassan Haskins a little bit? Do you see similarities in the
Oh yeah, I mean that's the guy we compared him to last year. I always said, like, this dude's Hassan. This dude's Hassan. He runs so hard. He runs physical. But just when you got Blake, you're not going to take Blake out. But the carries he got, he took advantage of. And right now, 15 carries for, I believe, 153 yards, averaging 10 yards a carry. Just unbelievable. Running hard, running physical, making guys miss, running over guys, running with speed. So blessed and happy that he's doing a heck of a job and doing what we thought he could.
On the left, John.
What do you say to Davis in a situation like this to make sure he's mentally ready if and when you need him?
Yeah, it's a tough situation when the big thing we talk about is taking care of the football and putting it in harm's way. So he was very, he's a great team player. So to watch him on the field, after and celebrate Alex's touchdown and go up there and give him a hug, not much I needed to tell him to hype him up or support him. We'll continue to support him. He's one of the players on our team, regardless of things that happen, ups and flows of the game, adversity. We're always going to support our players, but at the end of the day, we got to put the guys that we think are going to help us win at that time. So for us, Davis he's been awesome. He's been great. Obviously down, not happy about his performance by any means, but definitely still uplifted him in any way.
On the right here, Tony.
Yeah, without obviously disclosing the game plan, I wonder if you could say how the offense shifts with Alex. I think what we saw sort of more some run option. But
Yeah, I'm not going to give you all the keys to the castle, but we have a plan in place for Alex and ready to put it on display.
Does it look similar to how it did, or do you think?
Yeah, I guess you'll have to see.
On the right, Reiner.
Yeah, how hard is it to make a quarterback switch at this point in the season, especially before a game of this consequence?
It's part of the game. You got to make switches at other positions. You got to make switches when guys get hurt. You got to always be ready for it. So there's always a next man up mentality. And we've had to do that in this program, and we're going to continue to do it. So the whole team will gather around whoever's the quarterback and go win as a team. That's the goal.
And how much do you feel like you got enough out, or saw enough from Alex, I guess, in the game Saturday to kind of feel confident about where the offense stands with him at quarterback?
Yeah, we're going to feel confident. We're going to put all we can into whoever's the quarterback, regardless of who it is. So that's going to be our guy, and that's who we're going to ride with.
Dennis?
When have you seen Alex at his best? We've seen these 3 games, but in terms of throwing the ball, what can you tell us about what you've seen from him?
Yeah, he's got great arm strength. The accuracy has improved tremendously and done the things that we think can help us win. So, it's going to take great prep mentally and physically and spiritually this week to get him where we need to be, and I think he'll do that.
Has it been in fall that he's been with sharp, or is it more in the spring?
Both. Yeah, both. Fall, spring, summer, all those things. But obviously, we've got to go execute.
On the left, Alejandro.
Given the changes in style that Alex potentially presents, do you feel like you have enough time to install what you want to install with him for this week, or is it the sort of thing that would have to progress throughout the season?
No, we've got it all installed. The offense is ready to go for him, and we've got everything adjusted for him and his skill set.
On the right hand, Jolie.
Sherrone, any changes on the offensive line?
We'll still compete at center, see who, watch the film. Dom actually graded a little bit better than Curt, but Curt made some tremendous plays, but then there's communication things. So for us, we've got to definitely push that envelope to see how we can, make that the best it can be. Felt like they played a lot more physical, ran out the ball. Obviously, when you run for 301 yards, it's a really good day on the ground. So felt that we made some progress there, so we'll continue to push those guys and push everybody at every position to make sure they're playing at their best.
How would you evaluate Alex's arm? A lot of people like to say he's just a runner.
Yeah, he can throw. he didn't connect on the deep ball, but you saw that he has the strength to let it go down there. So that takes timing. That throw was all about his footwork, and people don't know, like, if you don't take the right footwork and you're hitched, then the ball gets overthrown. So for him, he knew exactly what he needed to fix, and he was out there yesterday throwing for an hour or so. Tried to tell him, like, dude, you got to rest. You still got to get to the game. So he'll be ready to go.
Did Fred slow on that route? I'm sorry.
Huh?
Fred slow on that route a little bit?
Oh, a little bit, yeah. There's part of it was, he trying to find the ball and just got to keep accelerating through it. So that was a two-part to it, for sure.
Austin? Sherrone, how did Alex handle not winning the job in camp when he was widely expected to? And was there any process of building his confidence back up?
I mean, both those guys, we said it before, both those guys are great team guys, and he was the first one to pat Davis on the back and give him a hug and tell him congratulations and be there. His attitude never changed. His attitude never wavered. But obviously he's disappointed. He's a competitor. He's a kid. He wants to be the starting guy. If I was a quarterback and competing for the job, I'd want to do it too. So, but the way he led, the way he acted, the way he presented himself was no different than it is now.
Andrew?
Kind of random question, but why do you think more offensive linemen don't become head coaches?
Interesting. I don't know. They should be. I mean, I think I don't know if it's the perspective of, you're just in the offensive line room, and because I know usually it's you got to be a coordinator, you got to be a defense coordinator, you got to be an offensive coordinator. So those things are just things that come into play, and I don't really have the answer to that. I'm just going to try the best job I can.
On the left, Anthony?
Yeah, just any updates on Colston Loveland, and then also your thoughts on how Marlon Klein and Hogan Hansen played?
Yeah, no updates right now on Colston. We'll just keep with the progress of the doctors and see where it goes from there. But thought those guys played well. Marlon had his best game, 3 catches for 40-something yards, and Hogan obviously had his first touchdown. Hogan's a guy that's just been kind of one of those guys who just worked his tail off, been fearless throughout camp, and you put him in there with the 2s, he's good. You put him in there with the 1s, he's good. He makes plays and just doesn't say anything, just works his tail off. So bright future for Hogan, and he'll obviously have a role as we go through.
In the back right, Ryan?
I know it's only been 2 games, but have you seen much adjustment from USC and how they've approached in their gameplay this year coming into the Big Ten?
Well, I've seen they're a lot bigger, obviously. Up front they put on some size, some mass. They got different guys in there. A bunch of transfers on the O-line. A lot of guys transfers from their defense. But they're a good football team. I think Lincoln does an outstanding job with the team. He's always been a great offensive mind, and I think Coach Lynn's come in and brought in that defensive background, and they play really good defense, solid team defense. So for us, it's going to be penalty free, take care of the football, and play our style of game.
And do you expect Colston to practice this week, and along with the other 2 guys that left the game with injuries?
Yeah, we'll see what the doctors say. So just let them handle that.
On the right, Aaron?
From the get-go with the quarterback situation, you said you wanted to find someone who's going to turn the ball over, take care of the football.
Mm-hmm.
How does Alex help you in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, when he's been in the game, he's taking care of it. So that's a big piece for us. So continue to do that, and he'll be in a good place.
Tony?
Yeah, I guess sort of a 2-parter. I guess do you guys stand by? Do you still stand by the decision originally to start Davis? Do you think that the proper decision was made at that time?
Yes.
Okay, and then that's the only part that we remembered up here, so we'll keep going.
All good.
I'll come back to you when you remember. Reiner?
When a decision like this is made, can you go back on it, or you have to remain absolutely convicted that this?
What do you mean? Can I go back on it?
Go back, can you switch back to Davis? I guess at some point down the
I
line.
think we're just going to try to play. We're going to play the best guy that we think is going to help us win. That's it. It's not going to go back and forth. So we're going to go progress to the next game, and take the guy who we think is going to help us win, and that's what we're going to do.
Sure, but from a confidence standpoint with the rest of the team, when you're if you are going back and forth, what is it? How do you take that into account?
I don't understand what you're asking.
Well, because when the decision is going back and forth, that people are looking at that position as a kind of a leadership position, and so if you're going back and forth between the 2 guys.
Yeah, I don't know I don't think we said we're going to go back and forth. Just Alex is a starting quarterback now, so there we go.
Isaiah?
Riley didn't get his start at Oklahoma, but he also, kind of was a Bob Stoops guy. Do you have any relationship with him, and what do you think that he learned that you can see from, like, how he's learned from Bob Stoops?
I never was with him at any time at Oklahoma, but you can just see the organization and how he runs the program, and players play for him, players love him. You can see that in him, and I've met him briefly. I think he's a great guy, and obviously an outstanding coach and developer at quarterback, so a lot of respect for him.
On the right, Liz?
Ike made a couple big plays on Saturday, especially as a senior who's playing his first snaps this year. What have you seen from him from a development perspective?
I mean, first, Ike's my guy. Like, they're all these kids are my kids, but like this kid has been on scout team for the past 3 years, and to watch a guy progress and just get better and get better and get better. He changed his body throughout the spring and the summer, and really in training camp you started to see him make plays, and I'm just like double taking. I'm like, that Ike making these plays, and continually do it. And he did it in the Texas game, made some big plays, stopping the run, and did it in this game. So it was awesome, proud moment, big hugs. Tried to lift him up. He's too heavy for that, but he's definitely progressed in the right way and gave us some depth back there with the D line for sure.
Noah?
What have you seen from Miller Moss thus far in Phil's side?
Yeah, really good football player, man. Accurate, takes care of the football, plays well within the system. Not a runner by any means, but definitely has good arm strength and has a lot of weapons around him and distributes it well. Plays well within the system, so he's a really good player.
Larry?
Personnel-wise, what numbers keep jumping out at you, both sides of the ball for USC?
I mean, I'll just go one. Obviously, the quarterback's really good. I think the line is good. Number one, Branch, he's explosive, twitchy, big playmaker. But on defense, I'd say number 6, their defensive end, Lucas. He's a game wrecker that we got to definitely have our eyes on.
On the right here, Aaron?
Is Jack an option at quarterback, or is he just not practiced enough for you to feel comfortable playing?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see some more this week about how the healing process is going. So as we get through there, we'll just go with the doctor's opinions on that one.
One more on USC too. The knock against them coming into the league, at least, was them coming from the Pac-12, maybe not being as physical to keep up with Big Ten teams. How have you seen that on film, or maybe improved physicality this year?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched last year, watched this year, watched all the teams that we're going to play that are coming from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten, and I feel like all those guys are suited to play in this conference. So all really good football teams, and they're no different.
All right, we've got time for a few more. We'll start with Reiner.
Yeah, Curt obviously had the experience in 2021 at ODU making a quarterback switch. How much did his experience in that kind of factor into this decision, and talking to him through that, what kind of insight did he provide there?
I mean, I think just for us, it's who we think is going to be the best to help us win the game. That's it. It's really, I think we've all had to deal with the quarterback switch at some point, and for us, it's who's going to help us win, and that's why we feel strongly that it's going to be Alex right now.
Sorry, Charles, I forgot you. Charles?
No worries. With the offense kind of struggling to find a rhythm a little bit, could we see Donovan and some of the other running backs get involved in the passing game, and do you think that could be beneficial?
I think we'll just, we have a plan that we feel like is going to be good for Alex and the quarterback, and we'll let him feel comfortable and then assert the weapons where we need to from there.
Yeah, and with an explosive offense like USC, could you learn anything from Texas and use that this week?
Say that again?
With USC kind of having a similar explosive offense to Texas, is there anything that you can learn from that loss and use it this week?
I think for us on defense, it's just doing what we do best and making sure we put ourselves in a position to be successful. We can't, you got to learn from Texas and learn from those things, but this is a new offense. This is new weapons, new things, new quarterbacks. So for us, we just have to do what we can to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes we made then.
All right, we're going to go with the last two. We'll go Dennis and then Clayton.
Did you have any conversations with Jaden Davis about possibility of just redshirting, or is there, his camp wanted to do that, or is there a chance that he could potentially?
Yeah, we've never had any conversations about that. We keep it open and we'll go from there.
On the left, Clayton.
How did Andrew Gentry grade out as getting a lot of time as an extra lineman, and then C.J. Charleston seemed like he made a bunch of key blocks. What is
he about? Andrew, not bad. Still got to get better. Still some stuff to clean up, but played good in that extra lineman role. Gave us some power, some thump there, which we needed. I thought C.J. Charleston played outstanding, especially in the run game. He was knocking people's heads off, so it was good to see that, and he'll make some plays in the passing game as we go through. Awesome.
Like always, appreciate you guys being here, covering Penn State football, excuse me. Looking forward to getting back in Beaver Stadium after a week off. This time of year is kind of unusual for this early in the season to not be playing. We're able to get out and get a ton of recruiting done. We're able to take care of our guys from a rest and recovery standpoint. And we're able to get some, depth guys, some work, some guys that are a little bit further down the depth chart, which was good. And then obviously being on the road recruiting. So got Kent State this week and Kenny Burns coming to town. Obviously Kenny's very familiar, not only with Penn State from what he studied us this year during his time at Kent State, but obviously also from his time at Minnesota with P.J. Fleck. Tremendous opportunity for both programs. We're excited about having them. Obviously, they've had some challenges early in this year, but we've seen some good things on tape that we need to be prepared for and we need to be ready for. When you talk about, their offense, Mark Carney is their offensive coordinator. They're a RPO tempo offense trying to base out of the spread. Mainly out of 11 personnel. We'll mix some 12 personnel in as well. Guys that we've been impressed with is their running back, number 3, Kai Thomas, who's a Kansas transfer, and their wide receiver, number 0, Luke Floria, and then also their wide receiver, number 2, Krishan McCray, guys that they are trying to get the ball to in a number of different ways, and we're going to need to be prepared for that. And then defensively, Cody Morgan. He's a North Dakota State guy. A lot of his career was there, been at Kent State the last 2 years. But everybody has so much respect for the North Dakota State guys, have done a really, really good job. They're a 4-down front, which we're used to from our defense. Variations of middle of field open and cover 4 and cover 6. We'll also close the middle of the field up with some cover 3 and cover 1. Again, things that we're familiar with. Pressure overall about 33%. It spikes up a little bit on third down to 37%. And then guys that we've been impressed with, their defensive end, number 6, Stephen Daly. Their linebacker, number 8, Khalib Johns. And then their linebacker, number 4, Rocco Nickel. Rocco is from Philadelphia, PA. He's from St. Joe's Prep. And then their defensive end, number 11, Cameron Olds. Cameron Olds is a big kid, 6'4", 245 pounds from Richmond, Virginia. We've been impressed with those guys. And then on special teams, C.J. Robbins is their special teams coordinator. Again, been with them for the last couple of years, another South Dakota guy. From a special teams perspective, this is probably their strength. If you look at them statistically, their punt block return unit is ranked 7th in the country. Their kickoff return team is ranked 6th in the MAC. They're doing a nice job there, and really a lot of it deals with the receiver that I was talking about, us having respect for. Punt return, kick returner, number 0, again, Luke Floria. So we're excited about that challenge. They have our attention, there's no doubt about it, and kind of looking forward to getting into practice on Tuesday. We did have in a lot of ways, our Sunday practice is a bye-week Sunday practice because although we're into game week, the Sunday is not a traditional Sunday for us because we don't have corrections to make, we don't have the film to watch. So we're actually on the field longer than we normally are on a Sunday following a bye week, and we're able to get some good work done. So open up the questions.
Let's go to Rich Garcella and then Frank Bodani. You're on deck.
Good afternoon, James. How are you today?
Good, Rich. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. James, you mentioned a couple things about what you wanted to do last week, but what were some of your top priorities last week for the bye week? And where did decreasing penalties rank among those priorities?
Yeah, for me, we just literally talked about it again in the staff meeting this morning. That's a major priority for me because we're just making things more difficult than they need to be. We're either stopping drives after we convert first downs or making more challenging third down situations hard to get into a rhythm on offense, and then defensively, letting guys off the hook, in terms of penalties that extend drives or make more manageable third down situations for their offense against our defense. So just some things that we got to get cleaned up. We're giving yards away and making things more challenging. So that is a major priority for us. I think we've talked about this in the past. If you look statistically at where penalties rank in terms of winning and losing, it's nowhere near what the turnover ratio is and what explosive plays are. But it makes for a sloppy game. It makes for a game that as a head coach you're not proud to watch. And it also just makes it difficult to get into a rhythm. I think it also has impacted time of possession, which has been a problem in our first two games, specifically in the first half. So we need to get those things cleaned up. But that's probably the biggest thing. And then offensively is third down. And really the same thing for our defense, getting off the field on defense and then being able to sustain drives on offense. I want to create more touches on offense for more players and more guys. And, it's difficult to do that when you're not extending drives. So the explosiveness has been great on offense, but we need to be more efficient and specifically on third down too.
Let's go to Frank Bodani and then Mark Wogenrich. You're on deck.
Hey, good afternoon, James. Hope you're well.
You too, Frank.
Thanks. I wanted to ask about KJ Winston. I know just as regards injury-wise, is it a longer-term significant injury with him, or, what can you reveal about his status in regards to that? And then just going with the safeties then. So whenever he can play again, right now, your safety room, you have your top two guys beyond them, beyond Jalen Reed and Zaki. How is that? Who would be the next guy up safety-wise? How is that position looking right now behind them two?
Yeah, so a couple things. I think that the first point is I don't really have any new information to share with you guys at this stage. I probably will, I would think, probably post-practice, when I see you guys later in the week. And then obviously, Day Lane is the next guy that we've been trying to get reps for. Obviously, when you're talking about, Jay Reed and Zaki, those two guys played a ton of football for us and will need to continue. Day's another guy that, we've been trying to get more reps and more experience. That'll be important. But we're going to have to develop a few more guys, especially, hopefully we'll see timing-wise how this whole thing will play out, but definitely for short term we're going to have to develop some more guys. So Day is going to be really important this week, and obviously moving forward as well. He's a guy that we've been trying to get more involved. We had planned on playing him more last week, didn't play out that way. But he's probably the guy that I would say our focus is on the most right now.
Let's go to Mark Wogenrich and then Mike Gross. You're on deck.
Hi, James. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. When you went back and looked at the first half defense from Bowling Green over last week, how did you address that? What did you want to get corrected out of there? And how much of that kind of stuff did you feel might have been just an anomaly in the way that first half played out?
Well, a couple things. I think we did not tackle as well in game two as we did in game one. And obviously that's an area that we got to get that cleaned up because we need to be getting better as the season goes on. And I think there's a lot of reasons that probably factor into that. but we got to be getting better from a tackling perspective. I thought we tackled really well week one, when that's a concern for most people across the country. I think the other thing that's a big one for us that we got settled in the second half is the communication. We were trying to rely specifically on the headset communication, and at home that can be a little bit more challenging with the linebacker trying to verbally communicate to all 11 guys on the field. Very similar to what I had explained to you guys about no huddle teams on offense. Trying to get the quarterback to communicate to everybody, that was still going to be challenging unless you're huddling. And on defense, you don't typically huddle. You condense a little bit, but you don't necessarily huddle. So that created some challenges for us and allowed us some opportunities to get those things cleaned up in the second half and really moving forward. And then just the discipline of playing the defense, of not trying to do more than your job. And the more we play great team defense and do their job and be gap accountable, then the plays come to you. So we just got them settled down and got back to playing the way we're capable of playing in the second half, and we need to build on that, obviously, going into week 3.
Let's go to Mike Gross and then Johnny McGonigal. You're on deck.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Good. How are you, Mike?
Good, thanks. Last year we talked so much about explosive plays and last couple of years really, and the first couple of weeks, that's been pretty. It seems like that piece of it has been very good. But now we're talking about third down, and you even mentioned time of possession a couple minutes ago. So I guess, how do you practice third down? Like, do you have early down package and third down package? Explain a little bit about how you try to coach getting better on third down.
Yeah, you do third down periods in practice. Typically, your third down calls and the third down defenses that you're going to see are different than normal downs. So you do third down periods. You do third down periods against your defense. You do third down periods against the D squad or the scout team that's replicating the look that you're expecting to see in the game. And when I say third down periods, it's 3rd and 4. This is what we're running on 3rd and 4. This is what we're expecting to see. Trying to defend us on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, whatever it may be. Those things are scripted out and practiced. So very similar to how you practice normal downs, how you practice red zone, how you practice third down. You specifically practice those things, and then when there's opportunities to go against our defense, which we typically do on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, one of those days is always a 2-minute period, and then the other day we rotate back and forth between third down and red zone. And then obviously if we're not doing as well as we want to do on red zone, or not doing as well as we want to do on third down, then we may double that up, and that could be on the offensive or defensive side of the ball. But if not, we rotate back and forth. So that's getting you an extra third down period with speed. That may not be the specific looks that you're going to see in the game. And then obviously you're going to do a third down period, that's scout looks, which are specific looks that you're expecting to see in the game. So that's how you practice them, and really you break up the entire game like that into segments. And then obviously when you do scrimmages and things like that in the summer, those things also come up organically that way too.
Let's go to Johnny McGonigal and then Neo Riddell.
Hey, James, how are you?
Good, Johnny. How are you?
Good. I got a question a little unrelated to game week, but Bill O'Brien, your predecessor, doing some good things at BC early this season. What are your thoughts just on Bill, being a head coach again back in college football?
Yeah, as you guys know, I've known Bill for a long time. I've known Fitz, his strength coach, for a long time. We were all at the University of Maryland together. Me and Bill lived in the same neighborhood. His wife and my wife were good friends. Obviously I followed his career in the NFL. and now back, obviously at BC at a minute for a short period of time. He was also in our conference at Ohio State, and now back at BC, which for a lot of those guys from that part of the country, BC's like, a dream job. It's interesting. I've talked to a ton of guys like, that BC job is a very desirable job. And if you know Billy's background, it makes a ton of sense. So, when that hire happened and when that whole thing went down, I thought it was a win-win for both BC and Billy. He's got a really mobile, dynamic quarterback, that had really done some nice things last year. And when you got that piece of the puzzle, you can build from there. And Billy's got tremendous experience doing that. So it's been cool to watch it, and happy for those guys and not surprised.
Our last question on Zoom is Neil Riddell.
Hey, James.
Hey, Neil.
I'm wondering, you had mentioned early in the season how the playoffs going to lengthen the season now, and you were concerned about that, building depth and whatnot. I'm just wondering, with the changes now, do you still advocate, I know you guys have financial considerations, a 12-game regular season?
Hold on. Say this again, Neil. What are you asking me?
I'm asking if you still advocate, in the wake of the playoff now, do you still advocate a 12-game regular season because of the length of the season? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, but I don't think that's going away. I don't think that's changing. It's interesting because whenever anybody wants to get anything done in college football, we say we're doing it for health and wellness, to get things passed, rule changes and things like that. But it's hard to say that when we're talking about a regular season as you described it, plus 5 more games, possible 17-game season. Depending on how it plays out, for the teams that make the national championship. So, I don't think that's probably the right thing to do, but that's not changing for all the reasons that you could imagine. And it's just like conferences that play 9 games or 8 games. I don't think that was advantageous either, for the Big Ten. But I also would make the argument, once you go 9, you're not going to go back to 8. You're hoping other conferences will go to 9, and I could actually see it even possibly going to 10 conference games. So I don't see that changing, Neil. But I understand why you're asking it, and I think it's a fair question. Especially if you're basing everything off of student-athlete health and welfare, for a ton of different reasons.
Please raise your hand and we'll take a mic to you. We'll start with Mark over here.
James, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. Would you consider Luke a green light at this point, and can you address the progress he's made since arriving on campus mid-year at, 215 or 220 pounds?
Yeah, so Luke is been transitioned to a green light at this stage. Again, these green, reds, and yellows can change as things go. I think we always look at things changing in terms of moving up from red to yellow to green, but they also can go in the other direction. But Luke's doing really well. He's one of these guys, he showed up on campus. He was very driven and motivated to play. That is both mentally and physically, was willing to do the things necessary to play, attack the weight room, attack summer workouts, attack the playbook. Has ability to make plays in the passing game. Where he's somewhat unusual in 2024 for a tight end is he'll also stick his nose in there. And for some of these guys that have never really done that at the high school level, that's a challenge, and especially when you're asking them to, block Smith Vilbert, who's 280 pounds or whatever he may be. He's shown a willingness and aggressiveness with that as well. So I've been a real big fan of Luke's in his approach. We got a ton of guys that I think could play as true freshmen. But the guys that have played, I think, are showing that they're willing to make the type of sacrifices and commitments to actually do it. And some guys are either not physically ready to play or emotionally ready to play or mentally ready to play. And he's a guy that's shown through hard work and development that he is ready to play kind of in all three.
In the middle, John.
Hey, James, how are you?
Good, John. How are you?
Doing good. Andy Kotelnicki has talked in the past about how he will kind of take plays from anywhere to add to his offense. I'm curious, how much do you guys add to the offense in the season? Is like, obviously coming off a bye week, is there any chance that you see something, from another program that you want to add, and do you add it during the year?
Yeah, I don't think that is specific to Andy. I think everybody's doing that, whether you're watching opponent tape. There's been a ton of times where our defense is going against a team and they're doing something that is problematic and causes stress and causes issues, and you kind of steal that and add it to your game, or you see another college game that you were watching, or an NFL game, or a high school game. I think coaches are constantly trying to find things. I think where you have to be careful is that you're not just grabbing a bunch of different things, different concepts that don't necessarily fit what you do and how you're trying to run complementary plays and schemes. So I think that's where you have to be careful, because if not, you won't have a system. You'll just have a bunch of cute plays from different systems, and it needs to be something that complements what we already do. So Andy does that, but really I think every coach in America is doing that constantly. And then to your point, I think it could show up maybe a little bit more on bye weeks, but again, not necessarily, because if you're grabbing schemes that already complement what you do, there's slight tweaks, that you're adding. A lot of times it's personnel group, a lot of times it may be formation, motion shift, but something we're already kind of doing, just with a little bit different presentation.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. Really excited to get the win last week. Back-to-back shutouts for the first time since 1962. It was a great defensive performance. We got a lot of work to do, a lot of room for improvement, and now we get to go and play one of the greatest rivalries in all the Big Ten and all of college football. It should be really exciting. I don't think there's anything more to say about that. With how excited we are, I'm sure Iowa feels the same way. It's an honor to be able to be a part of that tradition, and that's what the Big Ten's all about. And I'm glad we've all kept all those rivalries, because this is what college football is all about. It's amazing because you get to see that, Oregon and Oregon State already happened. The Apple Cup already happened. Here we are playing for the Floyd of Rosedale in week 4. Really exciting. But when you have those things that are kept, it's pretty cool that they've been able to do that with college football, with all the changes, being able to keep all this the same. So with that, we'll open it for questions.
PJ, what did you think last year's Floyd of Rosedale game did for the rivalry going forward?
Well, I think like anything, when you're looking at rivalries, I remember when we first got here, we hadn't beat Wisconsin, I think, for 14 straight years. That's a long time not to beat somebody. And you're calling it a rivalry, and you're looking at it, and, people have such a desire and passion to bring that rivalry back. And then we were able to do it, which was great. It was great for our fan base. We were not only able to do it, but do it back to back, and then lose it and then get it back. And, hopefully rivalries are meant to go back and forth. I'm not sitting there saying I want to lose anything, and nor do they want to lose anything. But I think that's what makes rivalries really special. You even watch Washington State. Just look how excited the Washington State Cougars were after that win. And that's what college football is all about. But I think rivalries are rivalries because they do go back and forth. They're usually border wars, border battles. They're really close. Everybody knows each other. You're recruiting a lot of the same kids. And that's where all the rivalries started. And, we're just honored to be a part of it. And, you'd like to be able to have a little bit more balance, as you go forward. And that's what we're working and striving to do all the time. Here at Minnesota, we're fortunate to have a lot of rivalries, and with some really, really good football teams. And when you protect those rivalries, those are huge games, big games against really, really, really good opponents.
Maybe an added wrinkle this year to it with everything that went on with the involuntary catch signal last year?
No, not at all. We were 1-0 last year. That was it. And you know me, I don't carry things over from one year to the next. That game was its own entity. That game had its own 60 minutes for both teams to go chance to win the football game, and we were able to bring Floyd home. And now we both are 0-0 in this game, and both teams are looking to be 1-0 somehow, some way.
From what you've seen on tape so far, what are the biggest differences with Tim Lester now calling the plays for the offense, and why has their running game been so good through the first 3 games of the season?
That's a great question. I think when you look at them, they're still Iowa. I mean, it's Iowa, and you look at everything that they lean on, and when anything's kind of getting off the tracks, they go right back to what they do and really do well, and that's run the football. I think when you look at Caleb Johnson and what he's been able to do, I think he's one of probably the most underrated backs in all the country. You look at 3 straight 100-yard games. It's what they do. They have a very veteran offensive line. Of course, you got Cade McNamara at quarterback. You got really good tight ends. And, I think the first half, I think they threw it an awful lot, probably more than they probably have in a long time when you're looking at the first game of the year. But I think as you looked at the more data as you go through the next few games, when they get back on track is when they're running the football. And they're running that stretch play. They're running the outside zone. Because that offensive line, I mean, you talk about not only experience, but the way they pass things off and the way they communicate and the way they fire off that football. This is probably one of their best offensive lines we've played. So, again, just this game's always won in the trenches, in my opinion, always, since we've been here. We've had a lot of close, tight games with them, one-possession games. But this is a really good football team. But I think when it all is said and done, it's, Kirk Ferentz is still the head football coach of this football team. And you can see his DNA and fingerprint all over it, even as they've made changes to staff members. But you see what they still want to do.
You see any difference in their defense this year?
What they traditionally do?
No, they do what they do. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just say it's a compliment. They do what they do. Are there new wrinkles here and there? Of course, there's new wrinkles, as you continue to evolve, but very similar to what they've always done. They put the ball down and play great defense. They're very sound. They get off their blocks. They can two-gap you. Every single one of them do such a great job, the D-line with the strike and shed. You can't even – a lot of guys can't even – they're so long and big that it's hard to even get into them on some of the blocks. And they do a great job getting out blocks. D-line does a really good job making plays in the backfield. Tackles for loss. Linebackers are really good tacklers. The Castro kid's one of the best, I think, players in the country, period. I think he can play anything. And they've got a really good deep secondary who's experienced. So, again, it sounds like a broken record every single year when I talk about this football team because they're always experienced. They're always deep. They always have good trenches. They're very sound in the secondary. On offense, they're running the football. I mean, it feels like Caleb's been there forever, the running back. So, typical Iowa.
Not even bring up last year's game, which ended with 22 points. They've only allowed two defensive touchdowns, like on the defensive side. You've only allowed one. Just what goes into playing this type of game where it's obviously every possession matters, every yard matters?
Yeah, I think it's like anything. It's going to come down to the ball. It's going to come down into the trenches. It's going to come down to who tackles better and who can break some tackles, and then who can create some explosive plays here and there. And that, as I talk about 78%, I mean, those are the 3 things we always focus on no matter who we play. I think when you play in rivalry games, those just get enhanced. Those become even more important. So I think that's what you're going to see on Saturday night.
If your offensive line is going to have their best performance of the season, what has to happen on Saturday?
They just have to be consistent. They have to be consistent. They have to do a great job communicating, and they just got to play hard-nosed football. And they do. It's not like they don't. They do. They played extremely hard. But again, as we continue to go through this and mold it together, we just got to continue to have the consistency that we know the guys can have.
How do you assess them in the first half? Obviously, Darius hits the home run in the third quarter, but first half run game.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever as bad as you think or as good as you think. And you go back in it and you're sitting there going, why aren't we, there's 9 guys down in the box. Not only that, if you listen to Coach Jeff's presser afterwards, I mean, his whole thing was stop the run, and they came from everywhere. Their thing was never be in the same place twice, and it was all over the place. I mean, some sound, some not sound. We're talking about people in lots of different gaps and moving and never letting us have a block head on. It was always on the side. They were slippery. They did a really good job of a scheme to be able to stop the run. But we knew if we just, like I said in our press conference at the end of the game, it was more body blows and consistency. I think people in the run game, sometimes think every time you run the ball, you should get 12 yards. Not in today's day and age. Not all the time, not like that. I mean, you're going to have body blows, and then you saw what Darius can do. And that's what Iowa's always done too. They're consistent, and there's a lot of body blows, and then explosive plays come out. So it's being willing to stick with the run game over and over and over, and that allows a lot of things to happen in the pass game, which, when we throw it, we got to be able to catch it and get us in the right plays. And I think Max has done a really good job of being consistent.
Film of Caleb Johnson, what stands out to you?
Oh, man. He's smooth. There's a lot of times he doesn't look like he's moving very fast, but he's running away from everybody. He runs behind his pads really well. He can play the speed game. He can play the power game. He's got great balance, great vision. And he's played so much. And their backs are so fundamentally and technically sound. And that's what makes them all really good, is they're a fundamental football team who does all the small details really well over and over and over and over. His footwork is always perfect, The exchanges are always really good. His landmarks are on point. His patience in the run game of being able to stretch something out and hold that block a little longer and get somebody to fit differently, and the ability to stick your foot in the ground and get vertical he's got it all, man. He really does, and he's got the speed to go along with it.
Do you have any update on Justin Wally?
Really just turn the page quickly. Obviously, Saturday to have the early kickoff. I thought our guys handled that moment. We had played 3 straight night games, and then to play the thing that probably, as I sat back and relaxed and kind of took in after the game on Saturday, we made a big issue with our guys about it was going to be the hottest game we had played to that point, and literally did not have one issue with cramping or any hydration issues. These guys have really handled their business as good as any team I've been around. We made a big issue about really from Thursday on about the game time temperature and the heat factor and playing 11 o'clock and everything from A to Z, and I thought that made a really big statement to me as well. Came out of it pretty healthy. A couple injury updates. Aiden Lawfrey cleared practice today. Should be, as long as there isn't anything unforeseen, will be with us on Friday. Carson Goda as well. Carson practiced today and should be involved in several aspects of the game plan as we go forward. One of the things I've really enjoyed is just offensively we've been able to work through a lot of different personnel groupings through the first 3 games, and expect more of that to come, just maximizing our best personnel. I think last year, because of the personnel that we were in, we were really pretty much an 11 team, but to throw as much diversity as we can. And we've played, I believe, 6 different or 7 different personnel groupings through 3 games, and that obviously I think brings a lot of value for us. So we'll get those guys back on the offensive side, and then defensively, Tyler Strain came in, was a very effective player for us on special teams, and this will be now the second week where his health is up and can help us in certain phases of the defense as well as on special teams. So excited about that. Jumped into the film literally Saturday. Our leaving the stadium, we flipped a page and went from Saturday to Monday. We skipped Sunday, so Sunday was really like a Monday. Today was like a Tuesday. Just very talented Nebraska football team. Have obviously a lot of respect for not only their head coach, but several of their coaches. Have had a very storied career. A lot of guys have done really good things offensively and defensively. A lot of the same players we saw a year ago. Obviously, the addition of new players on both sides of the ball and in the kicking game. So tremendous challenge, one that we're excited about to play under the lights on a Friday night. Ironically, had a Friday night game with these guys last year here at our stadium. Now to go over there and have the same, I think just because of what they've accomplished, what we've accomplished, to have 2 big teams ranked on a Friday night game is a little bit unusual. It doesn't happen all the time, all right? To see that play out and to be a part of it is awesome. Give a lot of credit to their team on what they've accomplished to this point. I told our guys to continue to keep our focus, our mentality, and see where it can go. So with that, open up for questions.
Bret, you get to test yourself on a national spotlight game, 2 ranked teams.
Mm-hmm.
I know your focus is one at a time, but just as a competitor, like, what is the excitement? What is the vibes of going into a game like that?
Well, I think, more than anything, it's our first Big Ten game, right? It's a rematch game. There's a lot of different things that factor into it besides just the two Big Ten teams that are ranked. I think once our guys get into Big Ten play, because of our conference right now, because of the exposure of 18 teams from coast to coast, these 9 conference games, mean a lot. I think when you throw in the element of, obviously they're ranked, we're ranked. I think that's a unique thing to these guys, right? Like it's kind of interesting to see the energy that brings up. For me, I really don't, care. But for I get from the outside world and from a young man's perspective to have that has been pretty good. But I just keep challenging these guys to keep playing their best football, to play against another really good team. I think that's something that, even going into the Kansas game, I know our guys really were excited to play against good competition, right? Against defensively against a quarterback that had all the value that he was bringing. Same thing on our defense or our offense side of the ball to play against Kansas defense, and then last week, challenge our guys to keep their focus on improving themselves, not so much about who we were playing, and then this week to have the front and center attention of Nebraska, who's gained a lot of attention ever since their Colorado game. Obviously, very well deserved, and it's something that brings their attention for sure.
In terms of Alec Bryant, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was one of your first transfer additions
Mm-hmm.
in 2021. To see him progress throughout 3 years in the program and have the start to the season that he
Yeah.
had, it's got to be.
Two guys that kind of came in that same window, Alec Bryant and T-Rod Edwards, are two of our probably more accountable players. Alec came in, didn't play that first year, right? So a little bit unusual, but T-Rod didn't either. But now those guys, I think both those guys stand out to me as guys. On the outside world, they're probably viewed as transfers, but for me, I personally kind of think of them because they've been with us so long. They just know how we do things. They know what we're doing. Alec brings a lot of diversity because he can play both Fox and Buck for us. He's kind of a hybrid between Seth and Gabe. Seth and Gabe are two different players, but Alec kind of blends that world perfectly. But also in that room, Joe Barna and JoJo Hayden have really, since fall camp, really made a huge jump in playing ability. So for us, we play a lot of our defense schemes have two outside backers on the field at any given time, and then when you throw Gabe in to the inside position, have those two, that's 3 outside backers on the field, and it gives us a lot of depth, which we needed.
Their quarterback is talented, but young, true freshman. How does that factor into preparing for him?
Well, obviously the preparation from last year's game, a lot of the same coaches and all that goes into it, but he brings a different element immediately. He's a very talented young man that's got incredible awareness, very talented, got a great deep ball throw. They maximize and utilize him pretty well. I think early downs, third downs, there's some things you can literally see him get better on every series. Just very impressive to see. I know he's a highly recruited player, brought a lot of attention and deservedly so. I've known the Rhule family. When I was coach at Wisconsin, his uncle was there, who I got to know very, very well. Then when I was in the league, got to know them, and then watched the story unfold wherever he was committed the first couple times, and then to go there last year brought a lot of attention to that, and you can see why he's everything that I would say that he's built up to be, and probably even more.
Coach, as your game planning, offensively, how much of that is informed by an offensive philosophy versus what's actually been clicking for you on game day?
I don't get the question.
Do you like the way you've been moving the ball, or do you want more balance and a little more effective inside running game?
The numbers speak for themselves, right? The ultimate number that we care about is 3 wins, 0 losses, but we're trying to go 1-0 every week. I think good teams do 3 things. They run the ball, defend and run, and cover kicks. And obviously our offense has to be balanced. They got to be able to run the ball effectively, especially when certain situations arise. I think going into this stretch here of 9 straight Big Ten games, I think, to be on the road, last night when I left the office, there was a 50% chance for rain on Friday. This morning when I came in, there was a 90% chance on Friday night, right? So I don't know where it's going to be. 2 best jobs in the country are weathermen and sports writers. You never have to be right, So I think the part that I think we have to be able to take advantage of if we want to win effectively in the Big Ten is be able to run the ball, at certain situations. But I think the greatest definition of a team is a team that can run the ball effectively when they want to run it against good competition.
You said after the game, kind of want to challenge your offensive line. What's that look like this week, and what are you hoping to get out of them?
Well, exactly right there. One of our biggest things that we have to do is become more consistent. I thought, 2 weeks ago in the Kansas game, one of our 2 MVPs were our 2 tackles. Melvin and JC played well, but I think they could play even better than what they played. Geske, Josh, and Zai, again, did some good things, but want them to pick up their level of play. We worked Brandon Henderson into the routine as a big tight end, but we were just having a hard time getting him in the lineup. So to get him game reps, I've done that often in my career, is just to give him a player more reps. Blocking good people during the normal part of a game is really valuable. Hunter Whiteneck, again, came in and did some things for us, has been a solid player for us, so I think the more depth we can build there. And then Kevin Wigginton went through an ankle roll-up, right? So he's been kind of just getting back up. He got cleared 2 weeks ago, so I think to bring him along and see where he can go is also going to be a big part.
When T-Rock can get pressure up the middle like he has made the last couple games, what does that maybe do for your defense? Just maybe do more with that.
Yeah, I grabbed T-Rock, I guess it was Sunday before the meetings, and just said, hey, man, I know maybe the stats, the production, the numbers that everybody seeks, right? The TFLs, the sacks, but his ability, like he shows up on film, and I made a very big point to him that, like, just keep doing what you're doing. The things will come that are there, and the most important thing is people are noticing because, the people beyond this opportunity he has in front of him this year, right? NFL scouts have asked about him. Just a very impressive. I think he's a shade to shade. Got a little bit of 3 technique value, but very explosive, dynamic. Plays at a really high motor. I think him and Briggs in there together have begun to be a little bit disruptive. And then you throw Gabe into the mix. Alex Bray had another good step forward. So I'm excited to see that group continue to grow.
You've played at Nebraska while at Wisconsin and Illinois. What's just that environment like, and what do you expect on Friday night?
Well, 400 straight sellouts, right? I don't know how many times somebody can be a part of 400 things, but we're getting the opportunity to be number 400. So a very tenured, unbelievable fan base. I remember the first time I ever went there, I was a young linebacker coach at the University of Iowa. We played there. Had never seen it, never heard it, never been a part of it, and became very educated in a short amount of time. And it's a very, I'd say, high football IQ crowd. Like, they know what's going on, they understand it, they get it, and they play to it. That doesn't happen by chance. So I think again, another part of this conference is just playing in some very, very awesome, unique settings, environments. Nebraska is an environment that, you kind of walk, the way you get to the stadium is unique. You pass through a bunch of people, and to hear that. I was at Kansas State when we played them a couple times, and to play them in that environment against former, at that time they were Big 12 opponents, right? And then to come back into it in the Big 10, just an awesome experience, and I think something our guys will really, really love the challenge. We got to obviously participate or prepare and anticipate crowd noise being a factor in the game as you can see it happen.
You talked in the offseason a lot about limiting turnovers. So through 3 games last year, 7 turnovers. Through 3 games this year, just 1. So obviously the emphasis is work. A play like Altmaier, almost like spiking the ball on that 3rd down, is that part of that plan of, like, listen, the one thing that can go wrong here is if you see somebody breaking on the ball, 3rd down, first pickup or not, you gotta not throw that pick.
There's probably 2 or 3 things that factor into it. Just awareness, right, as a football player. Like, I thought Luke, there was an arrow route to the running back you're talking about. Yeah, he definitely made a decision to ground that. But also there's been some, unique scenarios, like he got a ball batted back to him, right, and then he must not have liked that umpire because he took him out, But like, just very smart, headsy football player. Luke had to make both those decisions in less than a half a second, and he really did that. So I think those are great compliments to him. I think Barry and I would say Art, Art Sikowski is heavily involved. And again, I sit into some QB meetings, just the confidence that he's speaking with. But what's really been fun for me is to listen to our other quarterbacks talk to him about preparing him for a game, because they're also preparing themselves for that moment, right? So I think that part's really good. And then, I think there's a little bit of, I've said it all along, right? You learn more through moments of adversity and do moments of success. And, Luke unfortunately went through some moments last year that were hard to go through, right? For him personally, for us as a team, and to come out on the other side of it in a positive light is a true testament to him. But I'm just telling you, it goes through, in the last, probably, I would say 14 days, as we have success and there's players that aren't getting the opportunities that they feel that they can because the other guys are in front of them playing fairly well, that creates an atmosphere where people, if they want to become concerned about themselves and not concerned about the team as much, like that those can be hostile problems too.
I know you do practices like we're doing red area today, we're doing middle of the field, we're doing second downs, that type of thing. Is turnovers, are that taught into that? Is there like a risk-averse thing of like, look, we're on the 10 right now, here's the situation?
Yeah, well, two things. First, I never ask an offense to turn the ball over, right? So that's one thing. It's a voodoo doll, whatever you want to say. Like when we're trying to practice sudden change, I'll just say, hey, we're going to turn the ball over here, and I'll flip the ball on the ground. Or I'll just say, hey, they just intercepted the ball on a 26-yard line right hash because I don't want to, incentivize anything that would make that happen. So we practice and work sudden change, but once we get into the season, the situational parts that we have are more created by the script than they are by the actions, if that makes sense. But I think that the biggest point, I remember this moment with Tommy. I only had Tommy for 1 year, right? And I went into it, and there was an interception in the spring where I kind of had my moment of Jesus with him, right? And I just said, listen, I understand interceptions. I understand they can happen. I understand batted balls, but you can't force a ball into an early down pass, right? I can even live with some third down interceptions, right, or where it is, but you can't have early down interceptions, right? Those things are absolute, they just can't happen. They're killers. And I think Luke has been outstanding at managing the game in that regard.
Bret, your first game was against Nebraska, and obviously have coaching change.
Mm-hmm.
What have you noticed from Matt? How has the program progressed under him, and what has made him good, I guess?
I've known Matt all the way back to the Temple days, right, and then watched his growth at Baylor, and then obviously when he had his NFL opportunity. Didn't really know him. I've gotten to know him now since being in the league a little bit. Just a really good ball coach, based on fundamentals. He builds, I think, the team in the right way. He's got a great fan base. He's obviously have a facility now that's second to none. They got the whole package there with everything from NIL to the recruiting database. I think the part that's really unique to Nebraska is just the 50 years of football before any of us were here, right? Like, it's hard to erase those. I remember I was very upset. I might have told the story, but when the Big Ten became leaders and legends, right? And I was a head coach at Wisconsin, and they talked about these 4 teams. They talked about Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, and Nebraska, and how those teams had to be spread throughout these 2 divisions. And I'm like, well, if you look at the last 20 years, we've won more than everybody except for Ohio State. We were second. And I was a direct part of that, right? And I couldn't get it through my head. And Alvy kind of said to me, he goes, you can't replace 100 years of football. And it made a lot of sense to me. So they have that tradition, that history. I know I always follow our opponents, right? So I know Matt, during the course of over the last year, especially with Coach Osborne and the legends that are there, that he's incorporated them into their current regime, which is obviously very intelligent. One of my best friends, Barry Alvarez, is a Nebraska guy through and through, and I got to know a lot of his teammates. I know the pride that's associated with those guys and the way that Nebraska plays, and he plays off that big time.
I guess with Tyler Strain healthy again, Terrence Brooks getting some snaps, just how do you go about maybe best using 5 guys for 3 spots?
Well, I think depth is one of the most essential parts to building a good program, right? Like, is to have people that, you want to get on the field and get them out there. I would say this, though, like, things are going to change dramatically in a short amount of time. Nebraska, almost 70% of their offense is 11 personnel, which is 3 wides on the field and 1 tight end. You play certain teams that Kansas played a lot of 12, which was 2 tight ends, right? Like, prepping for Central Michigan, they played a lot of 12 personnel on Saturday, a lot more than we probably thought we were going to see. So, on a future horizon, Penn State brings a whole different offensive schematic thoughts and game plans. Oregon going down on the road, there's some teams ahead of us that put multiple skill players on the field, which will allow you to play more and more DBs. But Terrence, was good to get him involved. He strained. Really, last week was the first week that he was fully cleared the whole week to get the reps and get up. So we knew we wanted to get him in on the 3rd series, and he got in there and did some really good things, and again, really did some good things in the kicking game. Another guy, Tanner Heckel, came out and did incredible on special teams. Jaheim Clark, another guy that was really, really, those 2 guys were special teams MVP guys that all 3 of those guys, Tyler Strain, Tanner Heckel, and Jaheim Clark, those 3 guys were really a big part of what we did on special teams. And Mac Rusetish got in and did some really good snaps in the free safety. So we're getting more guys back there playing well, which is a big deal.
Caleb Valentine's kind of made most of his opportunities. Do you see a more of an expansive role for him going forward?
There's only one ball. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You know, we have, you know, with Aiden back into it, I mean, we got Aiden, Caden, Josh, and Khalil, all four of those guys. I'll just keep saying, like, I think the part that I've learned as a head coach, the more you have of running backs that have different skill sets, the better it is, right? If everybody kind of looks the same, walks the same, talks the same, it's good, but it's not near as good as everybody's a little bit different. And Khalil, when he hops in there, he's a completely different change of pace than for sure Caden and Josh. And now to get Aiden in there, they have some similarities. Those guys are really good athletes. They catch the ball extremely well. Khalil just continues to be very impressive, just his vision, his sidestep, and his juke. So, yeah, we're gonna you know, incorporate as many guys as we can to touch the ball, but there's only one ball.
You mentioned Ethan after the game a little bit about Ethan Olszewski.
Oh, yeah.
The recruiting process, about his experience at A&M, but also the plan you had for him, knowing you had a scholarship kicker in David already, and he seemed to want to believe in your plan. Can you walk me through what that process was like out of the portal, knowing you had a scholarship kicker, but you had a plan for him?
Well, you maybe don't know as much as you do think you know. You've already said three things that aren't correct. But I would say the part that's awesome about Ethan is he was looking for an opportunity. It was very clear to me what he was looking for, opportunity to kick. I literally thought he had kicked a field goal in live situations, right? Because I knew he had kicked, but I didn't know what. It was just a PAT. So to have his first ever field goal be a 59-yarder was. But again, like I think he said in his press, like he did this in practice, right? So like there was no shock to anybody that was lining up to perform, and there was no shock to any of us that were watching it happen. As far as just like actually literally just about a half hour ago, we got the actual game ball, and I had it on my desk, and I just said, hey, swing in and pop in, and to give him that, and to now have an Illinois record in his hands, right, of the actual game ball just speaks volumes. And the David and the relationship between those two, to kind of watch those two kind of interact and perform, just super, super exciting. He brings a lot to the table. I think all of our guys feel very good about the combo platter of both those guys. But in kickoffs, I mean, I love the 59-yarder, but he averaged 71 yards, right? 71 yards with a 4.2 hang time, which is an incredible number. For the non-math majors, it's 65 yards to the goal line, right? So that means he was hitting it 5 yards deep, 6 yards deep from where that was, and a lot of those were into the wind, so it was pretty good.
Can you hit on what Aaron had to go through last week and how you guys managed that and how he's come through?
Yeah, Aaron, as we all know, is a very strong face, strong man overall. I would say that that initial conversation when he came in my office, it was real late. It was late, probably after. It was definitely after 10, and I didn't know what was coming in. Right, I just had a person that I love in a very tough spot. So to sit and talk, we must talk for probably, I don't know, half hour or so, kind of just walk him, talk him, get him through it. I give a lot of credit to Josh and his crew, like the things that he'll have to do in the future to be a part of the celebration of her life will be after this weekend, and to the university to be able to take care of some things there has been absolutely kind of put his mind at ease, I think, a little bit. And then I just let him steer it. I didn't want to say anything to you guys, right? I didn't want to say anything to the media. We met with the media on Friday before the game, right? And I didn't say anything. I let that raise his hands, but I know he, had a moment with those people. And then after the game, we were able to give him a game ball, and to see our reaction of our players was really special and very awesome. But if you get to know Aaron, as you guys do, right, the gratitude that our players, our coaches have for Aaron is only because he does the same thing back to them. So, yeah, unfortunately, I've been through a couple of those, right, and I was able to share with him experiences when I lost my sister at an early age and where it is. So I think it's just another great indication of the family atmosphere we have here, which is pretty awesome.
You mentioned Coach Alvarez. Do you get to talk to him much during the season at all, or is it?
Not during the season. I mean, we do once in a while. I'll get a, hey, cuz, a text or something. But I did. I know Wisco's off this week, so there's a little group of Nebraska Wisco people that I during the summer. I think when I was in Hawaii, I was looking at our comprehensive schedule, and I just looked up and saw that they had. So I kind of reminded that group that I had tickets waiting for them if they wanted, but none of them took me up on it. But no, I don't really. I've really become an appreciation of Nebraska really because of my experiences at K-State. So I played in the Big Ten when there was no Nebraska, right? And then I went to K-State, and when we went to K-State, we won, we were the #1 defense in the country 2 years in a row. We were really good, won a Big 12 title. It was the first team in a long time to beat Nebraska at Nebraska, and then we won home. So we had, and then Frankie Solich was there, a guy that I competed against, and then I got the defense coordinator job at Wisconsin. And all of a sudden, Albie said one day, he said, "Hey, we got Frankie coming to town this week. He's going to spend a couple weeks with it." And I'm like, "Who the hell's Frankie?" Right? And somebody said, "That's Frank Solich," and I'm like, "Oh gosh," because we just beat him 2 years in a row, right? So he came and spent a couple weeks, and he came in and sat in my office, and I just remember the respect that I had for that man before that day and after that day, just a true embodiment of what the game is all about, right? And then, to be quite honest, Craig Bowl is now the AFCA director, and Craig's history with Nebraska is literally a guy in my coaching profession that I really admire and respect. So there are just so many great coaches that have come out of Nebraska, great players. I always loved getting around players that played at Nebraska when I was in the league or I was in that environment, and I'd meet players that played at Nebraska, and the passion that they speak of, right, and talk of, you really have great admiration for that. It's just same as our players, right? Like one of the great things over the last couple of weeks is to have so many former players reach out to me. We had Mikey Dudak last week, right? Like, and his story is absolutely a gut wrencher, right? And I try to always reach out to those guys the day after, because obviously Friday we're really busy. Mike gave a great speech. Saturday was insane, so I hit him up on Sunday, and just his response was very good. The week before that, Martin O'Donnell gave a speech that was freaking just unbelievably awesome. Kevin Mitchell the week before that, right? So to hear these former players from Stu Levnick to current players from everywhere in between, it's what college football is all about. It's really awesome. Yep.
Chance to get set. Thanks everyone for being here. A quick reminder, this time next week we will not have a press conference due to it being the bye week, and then we'll resume that following week. We kick off this week 6 p.m. Central Time on FS1 in Washington. If anyone is planning on going that hasn't applied, send Jacob and I an email. We'll get your credentials squared away. And then we should know the Indiana kick time either this time next week it will be announced, or if the network exercises their 6-day flex, we would know after the following week's games during our bye. So stay tuned. We'll make sure to announce that to everyone as soon as we get it. We'll start with an opening statement from Coach, then go into questions. If you have a question, go ahead, raise your hand, get my attention. Coach.
Excited about the growth and development we saw from our football team on Saturday. Have had an opportunity to get back in and review the film with our team. Clearly, still a lot of areas that we look forward to improving upon as we continue to, develop as a football team. Incredible challenge ahead of us. With our first Big Ten contest this upcoming weekend. Travel out to Washington. Very good football team, well coached. I know they're coming off a difficult loss in a rivalry game, but it's going to be an environment that we're going to have to prepare well for this week. Work through some of the logistics of the length of travel, and prepare for a really talented opponent. That is a challenge that I know this team is looking forward to. Team will be back in, this evening to start and get into our base down game plan, and have an opportunity to practice briefly tonight. It's a challenge that I know this group is looking forward to.
Coach, now that you've had a chance to look at the film, what are your impressions of Jack's first start?
Yeah, no, I mean, you could tell it was his first start in the first half, just in terms of getting into a rhythm and getting comfortable. But, really proud of the way that, he, managed, that 2-minute drive at the end of the first half, and the way that he came out in the second half. I mean, just his timing, his comfort level, his confidence, and you could start to see just the confidence building around him with his teammates. Excited about not only the growth that we've seen in Jack this last year, but really excited even just in terms of the maturing process we saw happen before our very eyes on Saturday night.
Coach, you're facing a veteran quarterback in Will Rogers this weekend. What have you seen from him on tape thus far, and what do you expect to see from him this weekend, and how can you prepare to sort of slow him down?
Yeah, I mean, really talented player, very experienced player. Performed at an extremely high level in his time at Mississippi State. He's within an offense at Washington that I mean, he's really well coached. Coach Fish, the job that he's done for years, structuring offense and finding ways to stress defenses. You got a very talented, experienced quarterback with a really talented coaching staff. It's a scary operation. There's talent out on the perimeter, talent in the backfield. They're going to find ways to stress their opponent. We got to do a great job of forcing him to process post snap, and we got to do a great job of affecting him in the pocket. If he's comfortable in the pocket, he's scary.
You got 2 block kicks in 2 games, and you've come close on some others. To what do you attribute that?
Yeah, some of it's just effort and guys playing really, really hard. Give our special teams staff, Coach Creighton and Coach Opsel and everyone that's working with that group, a lot of credit, especially in the Duke game of making some adjustments in game to give our guys that opportunity. But I think what you see is whether it be Najee, as a defensive tackle that, typically defensive tackles aren't super locked in special teams meeting, but I think you got a group of guys, Dave, that are just, fully bought into every single rep, whether it be a offense, defense, or special teams rep. And the thing I'll give our staff a lot of credit, we do a lot of circuit work, especially in spring ball and fall camp, of working certain techniques and diving into those fundamentals that can create those opportunities. And, to see that showing up in production is really exciting.
Coach, nationally you're ranked with yardage, rushing yards allowed, less than 60, less than 3 yards a carry, 2.7, that's 6th nationally, and you attribute that to what?
Fundamentals, technique, really sound scheme, guys playing really hard, guys never being satisfied with being blocked and just holding their gap. I mean, block destruction is so critical to that. It's amazing how you can play really sound defense, even with a lighter box, just with guys that are creating knockback and getting off of blocks. It's a credit to our front seven. It's a credit to our guys in the back end. We get our DBs involved in run fits frequently. Their tackling fundamentals and technique continue to show up, and as you know, Ted, I mean that's something that we're going to have to continue to do a great job of. And I know it sounds cliche, but it all starts off with fundamentals and technique. And there's no doubt that from a scheme standpoint, our staff's understanding of run fits and how they're structured is really high level.
You're coaching against Jedd Fish again. Last time was North Dakota State for you and Arizona for him. Do you have any memories from that game and anything is there any translation to now, 2 years later? Yeah, no, I think that's something that, we're, I mean, to answer your first question, I do have memories. They're not good ones. I mean, that was that was a tough loss on the road. I do remember walking away from that game, not only in the prep for the game, but also post game, just feeling like we were going against a really well coached operation that understood how to stress defenses. I thought the quarterback play was really high level and well coached, and it was that one was a tough one to swallow. Tremendous amount of respect for Coach Fish and his staff, and especially when you got a quarterback like Will that is as talented and as experienced as he is. We're gonna have to be at our best for sure.
Coach, you talked about the front seven. 7 guys have at least 1 sack. Kenny Soares Jr. has half a sack. You talk about the depth about all these different guys. You look at Dylan Roberts last week, for example. Guys picking up sacks. Can you just talk about the depth there? Yeah, no, it's really exciting. I mean, it's something that I learned in my time at North Dakota State of how valuable it is to play with depth. You always talk about development, but especially with the D-line position, sometimes that development can really be forced just by having an unwavering belief that we're going to rotate guys in, keep them fresh. Those game reps start to add up. It builds confidence, and it's also a credit to Coach Smith, just his willingness to develop that entire room. I think sometimes the misconception is that sacks come off of just one individual's great pass rush ability.
And in reality, sacks come from, number one, doing a good job in the back half of forcing the quarterback to process, having good coverage, but also working as a front four to build a pocket that keeps the quarterback in the pocket so we can finish. But again, I think Dylan Roberts' sack is a great example of just, a room that just continues to improve not only individually but collectively.
You look like, speaking of depth, wide receiver was an area of great depth for you coming in, but now you lost Ricky Franklin out the other night. What does that unit look like now from a depth standpoint?
Yeah, we're hopeful that we'll be able to get some of those guys back here in quick order. Hopeful that Frank will be able to go this week. I'm certainly glad that we've developed a lot of great depth in that room. The nature of Big Ten football is you're going to get nicked up as the season goes. But we're going to have to lean on that depth now more than ever as we look to get those guys back that do have an opportunity to get back here in short order.
Coach, Jack started the game about 3 for 12, but completed his last 11 passes. You mentioned you saw his maturity and his development over the course of the game. What do you need to do to make sure that he starts the game hot, especially going into a hostile environment like Seattle?
Yeah, no, it starts with practice habits, which Jack is always going to be, fully engaged and urgent and all those things. The environment is something that we need to prepare for and will prepare for, but it can't be an excuse or an explanation for us to not execute at a high level. And Jack, I'm fully confident will come in there with poise, with a lot of confidence, operate through the offense and have confidence in the guys around him. I think the thing that was fun to see, even when some of those passes early on weren't maybe hitting, just the confidence that he has in his teammates. He makes a really good throw to Marshall Lang on a third down in a tight window. The ball that he puts up early to Bryce Kurtz, on a shot play. He's given Bryce a chance, really good coverage by Eastern Illinois, but it comes down to great preparation and doing our best as a staff to prepare him and the entire group for the environment that we'll be walking into.
Hey guys, thanks for coming out. Had a really good bye week. Got a lot of good work with the guys that needed it. Got some rest for the guys that needed that. And last night we turned our attention to Virginia Tech. Got started on them, and huge task. Going on the road for the first time, I love that. Taking your team on the road, be a great environment. The players that we face on the road are going to be really good players. This is a veteran team that, as I look at them, they probably have 8 to 10 draft picks on this team, and then another 5 to 7 free agents. So they have a lot of NFL players on this team. And as I've told you guys before, good football teams in college have a lot of NFL players playing on their team. And this is one of those teams. So, offensively, it starts with the quarterback. Number 1, Drones. He is really big, athletic, strong arm, can create, can do it from the pocket, can run the ball. We saw him a little last year, and then I think from our game on, I guess we knocked out the other quarterback, and he came in, and then it was their ascension as a program and as a team kind of coincided with his development. So really a fine player. Tootin, 33, the running back, is a really good player. Low to the ground, physical, patient runner, very, very physical runner. And then their receiving core, this may be the best receiving core we go against all year. I don't know, but it'll be up there in the top 3 for sure. 83 Lane is fast, athletic. He's a day 1 or 2 pick. He's that good. But Jennings and Felton aren't far behind. We actually went down and spoke with Jennings when he was thinking about transferring. So we flew down there and visited with him. Didn't work out, obviously, but I think he's a really good player, thought that way. And I think their tight end, who I think is just a redshirt sophomore, Gosnell, he's a really good player too. So, wherever you look in the skill game, they are loaded. When you flip over to defense, 52, I don't know, APR is what I just go by. That's what they call him. he is an electric player, right? He had 4 sacks last game, sack fumble. You really better know where he is, or he can be a game wrecker. But I think their secondary is really good. Their corners are both NFL players, and because of that, they're afforded a lot of flexibility defensively what they can do. So they can play man, they can play zone, they can stack the box and outnumber you, and they do all that. And Coach Pry is an excellent football coach. He's put together a really good staff. I knew him when he was at Penn State, and obviously he's the right man for that job. He's home in Virginia, and he's doing a great job building their program. So it'll be quite a challenge, one I'm looking forward to, and I know our guys are as well. And great atmosphere, great team, and an opponent that is really gonna test us, and I'm looking forward to that. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
You mentioned their quarterback, Sherrone. When you watched him on film, did anything jump out at you about how much he's improved in the last year that has kind of made him an even better quarterback than what you saw a year ago? Yeah, well, you could see his ascension, right? Like I said, I watched last year's tape, and you just see him getting better and better and better. And then this year, he is electric. Like, he can create things. There's one play where the ball's on the ground. The next thing you know, it's a huge gain. And he scoops it up, scrambles, throws it downfield, and I believe that one was to Lane. And when you have that kind of speed and you have that kind of athleticism, you really got to be on point. Otherwise, you make one misstep and it's a touchdown.
Rutgers' first trip to Virginia Tech since 2002. You were the head coach back then. What do you remember, one, about that game and just what it was like to play as a visitor at Lane Stadium? Yeah, it's a long time ago, right? I think I was 35 years old, so 35, 36. I remember we battled. They were a much better team than we have, probably a 3 or 4 touchdown favorite. But we battled, and we hit some. I remember Aaron Martin had some big catches in that game. But yeah, certainly not good enough to win. Great place to play, and it's been expanded since then. It is one of the better venues, and looking forward to it. But again, the team we have to play, that's the thing. The road is the road. You use that to fuel you if you're a competitor. But the level of talent that we're facing, that's the challenge.
What would you say is just the general health of the team coming out of the bye? Do you still feel like you're as banged up as you were in the preseason the first couple of weeks?
No, that's a good question. We're better than we were going into the season. We're still not back, but we are better. Certainly with Mo gone, he's not going to be back, so that's a huge hit. But we're getting better slowly. And I'm not going to get into the availability and who's going to play and who's not going to play and all that stuff, because, quite frankly, some of it I'm not sure. And the ones I am sure I'm not going to talk about, because we need every advantage we can going down there this week.
Philosophically, how do you approach the bye week, and in terms of that balance between rest but keeping guys sharp? And you're 2-1 since you've come back under the bye week, and the loss was the Ohio State game, which may have been your best performance last year. But how do you do that in terms of just coming in week 3 with a bye?
Well, it's different, right, when you do it after 2 weeks. I kind of looked at training camp in our first 2 games as that chunk. When you get into the season, it's different. The next time we have a bye, we'll have played 6 straight games. So it certainly is different. But just as I approach training camp, the guys that are, those 750 or 1,000 rep plus guys that have played that many plays in games, it's going to be a long season. We got done what we needed to get done with them, and then we got them to doing other things, lifting, treatment, those kind of things. Guys that are trying to work their way back, we used as an opportunity for them to get reps that they needed. And then the young guys literally got, 100 game-like reps last week. So it's huge for their development. We do developmental football all season long. That's who we are. We're a developmental program. So our young guys, our redshirt guys, everybody, we go a little bit extra at the end and get them repetitions. But weeks like that can really give them a big chunk. And then we were able to go recruit, which we haven't been able to. Right after our first game, even though we played on a Thursday, we weren't allowed to go out because you couldn't go out until the 1st of September. So we missed out on that weekend, but we mobilized as a staff. I was in several different places, and we'll do that usually on every bye week. So philosophically, that's kind of the approach. Where it falls in the year determines kind of how or what you do. We do have some experienced players, though, and I wasn't just going to have them run into each other for another week without a game at the end of the week that we're preparing for. So that's kind of how we did it.
It's a small sample size, only 2 games. So what's your evaluation of your pass rush so far this season?
Pass rush. I kind of group it together with last season, which wasn't good enough, and this season is slightly improved, but we have to make substantial improvement, and this week we're going to get the maximum test. I'll tell you the truth, that first week against Howard, that kid was as mobile and as fast as I've seen in a while. I don't think Drones is quite as fast as he is, but Drones is they list him at 230-something, but he looks every bit of 240, right? So think about a quarterback when he scrambles and you got to tackle a 240-pound man that moves. In both their games, he ran through people's tackles. So we have to strap it up. And then the guy he hands it off to, Tootin, he is really physical as well. So this is going to be a physical game on the road. You better pack your toughness, that's for sure.
Yeah, Coach Walters, you've had a few hours, looked at the film again. Anything in the film that you've seen since then that strikes you that maybe that can be corrected?
Yeah, there's a lot that can be corrected. I think that the disappointing thing is, you felt like the issues that we had were corrected before the game. Obviously, that was not the case. We need to take pride in the physicality of the game of football. You got to give Notre Dame credit; like they punched us in the mouth right from the opening kickoff, and we flinched. And as the head coach, I can't allow that to happen. I have to do a better job in preparing our guys for what is to be expected from that type of opponent on a game day. And I've got to do a better job of preparing us for opportunities and moments like that, because we're gonna have them all throughout the course of the year. So there were obviously a couple schematic issues, technique issues that are easily corrected. Just being disciplined with eyes, discipline with pre-snap alignments, discipline with IDing the right, the right, formation and set that is in front of you pre-snap, and you'll get those every game, right? Like I said, to me, the disappointing thing coming out of the game was that we physically got beat up, and I didn't see that coming, and we'll make sure that never happens again.
2 games in, Ryan, what do you think the team's identity is?
Yeah, that's what we had a very candid conversation yesterday about. I have always operated in truth to the team, not sugarcoating or gassing anybody up, just telling them what are the facts. And the fact right now is we are a 1-1 football team that has lost to a ranked non-conference opponent. But the fact also is that we lost 66-7, and we have to own the worst loss in program history, and that falls on my shoulders. That first game we executed at a high level. I don't care who you play against. We executed well. We played tough and physical. We tackled well. We made the right reads offensively. We ID'd the right fronts offensively. And we were excited and energized to play. And then the second outing, it was the opposite. And so, right now, I told the team, you are both teams, and it is our decision on which team we want to be moving forward. Like I said, post game, I also can't ignore, what I've seen since January. I can't ignore what I saw in spring ball. I can't ignore what I've seen in fall camp and how I felt going into last Saturday. But we also can't turn a blind eye to what transpired for the last 4 quarters. So I'm excited as heck to get back on a practice field. I can't wait for Saturday. I embrace struggle. I embrace adversity. And this team will as well. And so I'm excited to see how we respond and fully expect us to respond the right way.
Ryan, are there benefits to taking a road trip, especially not just the way you lost, just any loss, to get away from the noise and the things that they're going to hear, and setting a travel roster, going out and staying together in a hotel, a lot of guys who probably aren't familiar with each other to date?
Well, even at home games, we travel and stay in a hotel together, maybe there's benefits to getting out on the road. I just want to play again, and I know our guys want to play again. I love being at Ross 8. I love playing in front of our fans. I get their frustration. I'm a Laker fan, and when Lakers don't play well, I'm angry, right? As far as like the noise and it's easy to have an opinion that is without consequence on social media, you know what I mean? So our guys got to do a good job of blocking that type of noise out. The only way you fix that and quiet that is you got to go perform well. And so I'm excited to go do that, whether it be home or away. I want to go play again.
I think last season you were competitive in pretty much every game, maybe not the Ohio State game, but the losses, it seemed like they responded well. And I'm assuming you expect that to be the case. Hudson said Saturday, we can't let this affect the Oregon State game. So how do you quickly turn that and put that behind you and realize you're still a good football team?
Yeah, I think Hudson's exactly right. You don't want the embarrassment and the disappointment hangover to affect how you play on Saturday. And so, I think the way you get over it, and I don't know if you ever really get over it. I think you need to wrestle with it and you need to learn from it, so that you're reminded of what will happen if you perform that way again. But to me, the way to positively move forward is you need to address it. You need to look at it through realistic lenses, and confront it. You need to confront the adversity head on. And I thought we did that yesterday. That tape was hard to watch, and it was hard for some of the guys to take accountability of their performance. It's hard to watch, all 3 phases as a head coach, in knowing that, ultimately I'm responsible for everything that transpires on game day. But in order to move forward and to get this team where we need to go, that's what you have to do, from top to bottom, from myself to the last guy in the roster.
Circumstances and how much pressure he was under. How big of a weapon can that be, especially when you get in these tighter ball games where you can flip the field and rely on your defense?
Yeah, it can really be an asset. Like you say, you flip the field, and just from a percentage standpoint, it gets back into your favor on being able to keep points off the board from your opponent. I do think if there was a silver lining positive from the game, usually, when you have a performance like that and you have a disappointment that is that big, usually there are issues in the locker room. If we would have had that type of performance a year ago, it would have took a lot to sort of galvanize the troops and regroup. And on purpose, I paid attention to what was being said and how people were acting on the sideline. Hung around the locker room a little bit longer than normal. And this team is together. This team is tight knit. This team is they believe in each other, and they're ready to move forward. And so we got a choice right now. We can, on Saturday, we can either be 2-1 or we can be 1-2, and that's the reality where we're at.
Talked about getting punched in the mouth early and needing to fix it. Just how do you go about
fixing that aspect at least.
Yeah, I think you draw back on lessons learned, right? You know, we just saw what happens when you get punched in the mouth and you flinch. So moving forward, if that happens, especially early, we got to punch back and we got to embrace the challenge, embrace the physicality, and embrace the urgency with which we need to execute in order to climb back and get momentum back. You know, I thought, you know, one of the reasons that it kept faltering is just we weren't playing complementary football. You know, defensively we couldn't get a stop on third downs, and then offensively we're off the field fast, and so that is not a recipe for success. And so, you know, we'll address that and be better moving forward.
And then just on the injury front, obviously CJ and Nyland aren't on the depth chart. Any early indication on those guys, and then any status update on George Burhit, who was out on Saturday?
Yeah, so, you know, George is recovering. Obviously, CJ and George are now recovering from some hamstring issues. You know, Nyland is very close. He's running on the grass now, and it's just a matter of